Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest video in the NetBeans 101 series. In this video we're going to look at the user interface, the NetBeans User Interface, the UI as people call it. The first thing you really do after setting up or installing NetBeans and making sure you've got the appropriate plugins is to work on or configure the actual user interface. So today we will look at where you can configure it, how you can configure it, how you can store some of the settings and this type of thing so you can get them back later. Now, if it's just for your benefit, the user interface is just for your benefit, then you can do what you like with it. But if you're working in a company, then they may well have a default set that you have to have so that anybody working on your machine or working with you will know where to find things. I'm hoping this isn't going to get too long because there's quite a lot for the user interface. So let's start. Right, so today this is the Windows interface. I'm actually using NetBeans 9 and it's what I actually program on and what I create files on. And in fact, you can actually see that open in project files is my website. I won't be altering any, or I'll be trying not to alter any during this video. The other thing you might notice is I have notifications open and I've exported all my settings, my options and that type of thing. I'll show you how to do that later, and it does help with making sure you can get back to a set place if you start messing about with your interface, which is what I'm just about to do. Now, the interface itself is very personal to you. What you will like will be very different to what I like, and it will also depend on the size of monitor you've got and this type of thing. Whether you've got more than one monitor, then you can actually detach with various parts and put them on different monitors if you so wish. So let's basically start. Right at the very top, just like in any program, you have the menu and you also have a search, which is basically a quick search of the system, just as it says there. You then have the menu bar. I have altered the menu bar and changed things around. To change the menu bar, you can right click on it and you can see that you can actually add or remove things as you wish. You can change it to the small icons, which I tend to do because you can then see more of the icons on a smaller monitor. You can also customize it, and this will take a moment. And basically you drag items to or from the toolbar to customize it. I don't really, let's have a look. If I just put this just for now there. So it's as easy as that. I've literally just dragged CSS styles up to the toolbar and dropped it on the toolbar, and it's created that. And to remove it, you can just drag it away, and as you can see, it's now gone. You can reset the toolbars, and you can create a new toolbar which can go below or as you wish. So that's the toolbar. Then you have the panels, the various different windows. The one in the middle, this is your editor, and if you open a file, and by double clicking on it, it will actually arrive in here, and you'll see that NetBeans will actually look at what you've done, and it will load in the correct libraries so that it will be able to check for you. As you can see, there's some parts that it doesn't like on here. Right, if you right click, you will have a menu, and there are a lot of items in the menu. I'm not going to cover this menu just yet. This will be for a later video because there's quite a lot to cover, but the one you might use quite a lot are properties and Git. Files. This is a list of files that you have within the project. You don't really need it. It's up to you as to, because they're available in the project. And services. Now, services, these are all the different things that you can really do with the IDE, which you can't really do or have difficulty doing with just a plain editor. So you can actually attach databases. So you can see I've got a MySQL server database actually attached. You can create web services, Maven repositories. You can, if you've got cloud repositories, you can attach to that. If you use C, C++, you've got the build hosts. All different types of services that are available here. Over on this side, because I tend to program for the web, I have a CSS styles. Because I don't actually have anything open, the CSS styles are blank, but what you can actually see that I have the NetBeans connector on my Chromium browser, so I can actually connect and run the IDE and do development work backwards and forwards with the styles there. Again, this is something that I will come to a bit later on. Down at the bottom I have a navigator, so you can actually see the various different items that you're using, and you can navigate to them and find things relatively easily within the system. So if I want to go to the node script, I can just double click on it, and as you can see, it's highlighted in the editor. If I wanted to go to the nav, I can do that, and you can see it's moved to the nav. So that's the navigator. Notifications, I tend to have this open just in case there's updates or other pieces of information for me, or certain errors, though it will actually pop up with a notification in the toolbar at the bottom here. Output, I use this quite a lot because I use Git and various other things, and the output from Git and various other items will be shown in this window. Okay, so how do we deal with this window? How do we create these? Where do we put them? That type of thing. First of all, NetBeans will remember the position of the windows usually. There has been one or two occasions where it has forgotten, and I think that's more a case of the fact that there was a problem shutting down rather than anything else. In the main editor window, we have history, so you can actually see all the changes that you've made, and you can see a note that I made in the commit, and you can load all types of things. One of the nice things about the history is it will show you the differences, and you can find the differences. So if you click on textual, it just tells you what the differences are, what was removed and what was added. If you want the graphical one, then you can again use the graphical one, and it will show you what was added or removed. You can filter by different things, Git or local or diff to current. You can decide how you want to do it. Again, I will go into much more detail about the history later. So this is the source. I shall just close that down. Again, how do you actually set this up? Well, if you come to Window, you'll see that there are a number of windows that you can actually open. So Projects is this one here. Files, as you can see. Classes I don't have set open, and Favorites I don't have open, but Services are here. Navigator, well, that's this one at the bottom here. I don't have action items or tasks, but I do have output, and as you can see, the output is here. Where are we? Output. The editor, of course, which is the main editor. You now have the debugging. Now, this is really very useful once you start debugging, Again, you can actually look at all the different debug parts if you wish. Profiling, you can have a look at how well this is running. You can take snapshots and profiling points. The web, well, it has its own inbuilt web browser. You can see the CSS styles. I have it here, it's there. And you can see, for example, the browser DOM, knockout, and a network monitor if you're using JavaScript, that type of thing. If you saw the the plugins video, then you'll notice that I have a regex tester, and that I can access from here. I don't use it very often, but it is useful when I just need to check that I've made the correct settings in the regex. IDE Tools. Here you've got palettes and properties, you've got test results, bookmarks, Java documentation, that type of thing. You have the notifications, which is down at the bottom here. So that's where you find notifications. You've got an exception reporter, which will report back to NetBeans, Apache NetBeans, if there's a problem. And you also have a terminal if you wish to use the terminal as well. Right, you can actually, as I mentioned earlier, if you've got multiple monitors, you can decide how you want the windows and each particular window to look. You can float them as a group, this type of thing. You can minimize them and maximize them, and I forgot to tell you, but there's also a button next to most of the windows allowing you to minimize them, and we'll just do that so you can see what happens. So you can see the Navigator now is taking up the full screen, and if I minimize that, it's all down the side, giving me more area to edit in. Navigator, and I'll click on that. Oops, where's my Navigator gone? Okay, and as you can see, usually most things go back to where they were. That's most of the windows. You can close windows, you can close all the documents. You've got the document groups, so if you want to create a document group, you can do that. There's a lot you can actually do here. Again, it's your choice what you open and what you don't open. I mean, if you've got to-dos, for example, you might want to put an action item section in here, and as you can see, there's all sorts of different to-dos and things that are found. Now, most of these are actually in Bootstrap. Most of the scripts are external scripts. I don't have any payment pages on this site, so I'm prepared to use external scripts on the site. If it did have payment pages on here, I wouldn't use that. So most of these, as you can see, are Bootstrap and that type of thing. And so there are things that you need to look at. Favorites, again, if you have a favorite, you can open various different ones. You can see all of the different things that are in the favorites. Not something that I tend to use. What are the other ones that we haven't got open that might be useful? Classes. Okay, there's no C++ project, so that's not necessarily a good one to open unless you're working on C++. Okay, I think that's everything for the user interface from the Windows menu item. Next, I'm going to come to Tools, and we're going to come down to Options. And in Options, you've got two sections which we will look at for the interface. One is the editor itself. This is how the editor is actually set up, and what we will do is we will look at that in more detail in a later video, because there are a lot of things to look at here. The other one is the appearance. This is where you can set themes. If you've got plugins for different themes and so on, they will usually appear in here, and you can set how you want the system to look and behave. So for example, you've got the tab placement. You want it at the top, at the left, at the bottom, or the right. You choose multiple row tabs, for example. You can do that. How many rows? When you select something, you can click apply, and that will apply it. You can do the same background color for files from the same project, because you might have multiple projects open, so you'll have a slightly different background color for each project, which is a very good idea. The windows themselves, again, you can decide how you want the windows to behave. So you can, when you drag it, it shows an image of the window or not. It becomes transparent when you drag it. It snaps into place, which I find is a good idea, and it snaps to the screen edges, which is also a good idea. I'm not really keen on transparent floating windows. Again, that might be something that you want to do. Look and feel. Now, this is the themes. LAF is sometimes what it's also the acronym for it, LAF. Now, I have this set to Nimbus because this is the same theme. I use this both on Windows, which is what you're looking at the moment. This is Windows. And I also use it on Linux, and the Nimbus theme is the one that actually works for both. If you want to change the theme, you can see I've got the Windows one. I can change it to Windows. If I click Apply, it'll need to restart, and it says, would you like to restart? So I'm going to restart it, and you'll see the difference when it restarts. Okay, so there we are. You can see it's restarted. As you can see, it's much more of a square style, probably a bit brighter. Again, it's your choice as to how you want it to look, but this is the standard Windows one. If you decide you want a different theme, well, you need to go to the NetBeans plugins website, which, just let me do that. So it's plugins, netbeans.org, plugin portal. Note, this is not secure. It's not an HTTPS, so it's your choice what you want to do here. You'll see there's a Sublime theme. There's a Darkular LAF, that stands for look and feel, which are both here. You can see that there are some newly added themes. So you can see that some of these were just a few days ago. It's the 18th of December today. This was put up 2 days ago. If you want to search a theme, you can do searches by using category, or you can use, so for example, graphical user interface. You can get the various different interfaces available. So it can look like Atom if you want. You can see that there are 83 different themes or user interfaces available. So you can usually use one that you might like. So for example, if I just type in Atom, you'll see you've got the Atom fonts and colors theme, the Atom Dark, Sublime. You've got the different Sublime ones. You need to check the NetBeans versions. Make sure that it's 8.2, so this will work usually with version 9 and version 10. If it's a bit earlier, then for example this 7.4, there may be problems with it. So check the NetBeans version first, and you can see that there's a rating as well as to how much people liked it or didn't like it. So you can do as you wish on that with the themes. You can then download them. If you want to see how that's done, have a look at the plugins video where I downloaded the Darkular theme for NetBeans. When you actually click on one, let's just click on the Darkular again. It gives you a basic how it looks. It tells you which versions it's available for. You then get the download button, and quite often you'll get a change log. Now, some of these can be very brief, but some can have quite a lot of information in. You can see that there's a comment here that the icon and fonts are so small. That isn't really a problem because you can change that within the user interface, and that's something that I'll come to a bit later on when we look at the editor and how to change the fonts and the styles within the editor to set it up how you like. Okay, right, let me just close that. So we're back to the Apache NetBeans. That's about all for the setup of the user interface. There are lots and lots of items on the menu. You can customize a lot of this. Most of it is set up as plugins, so each is customizable to how you'd like it. You noticed I exported my I clicked the export button and I actually selected all, gave it a name, and then exported it so that I can actually put this back how I like it, having shown you it. This is very useful if you actually export it and then put it on Dropbox or something like that. If you then are working on a different computer or you need to change your computer, reload it, then you can just import it and everything will be back to normal again. So for example, you just select the source. Oops, wait for it to select the source. Sorry, I'm working on two monitors and you can see that's the one I did. So it'll bring it all back in with formatting, fonts and colors, the editor, all the general, and you can decide which ones that you want to change everything. So it's all here, everything's here. You can decide which ones you want to change and which ones you don't, and by clicking on OK, it will restart the application and it will bring back in all my settings that I had before I started this video. Okay, so you can now see I'm back to the Nimbus theme. Everything is back to how I had it before we started the video. I'm just waiting for it to fully finish loading in. So I've got my projects, my files, and so everything is back to how I had it previously, or thereabouts. You'll notice it always scans an open project if you've got one open, and it will check that everything is okay. I've now got the Navigator and it's loading in all the libraries that it needs. That's the look and feel. It's very personal to you. You decide how you want it. You can move items around. For example, I can do that, though why would I don't know, but I can if I want, and you can move it back if you wish. It's your choice what you want to do, how you want to do it. You can see that there's a frame to show you where it would go if you put it somewhere else, and here you can see it's part of the start page. On that you can then resize it, and because it's part of the start page, it's not going to allow me to resize it to the size I want. I need to break it out of the window and it will actually float, so I can have it out of the window like this, and then later I can actually dock it back in. If I wish, I can dock it back in to the system very easily. Okay, that's everything just for now. I hope you found that useful. Next we'll look at the options in the next. The options video will probably be about 5 or 6 videos long, because there are quite a lot of options to look at and quite a lot of things to go through. I hope you found this useful. My name's John, and I'll see you next time.